Hello, you two. And here we are back to write our new ending for our story today. Do you remember that yesterday I read you Stickman, my favourite story? And then I told you about the idea that I'd had for the new ending for my story. And I drew my story map on my board to plan out how I would write a new ending for my story. And at the end of the lesson, I asked you to go away and read or listen to your favourite story at home, and then to think of a new ending and draw a story map for me, just like I did. So today, we're going to write our new ending. I've been practicing to tell you my ending with some actions as well. Okay, are you ready? Suddenly, Stickman fell out of the sleigh. He fell down and down through the night sky. He landed gently on the top of a snowy hill. Slowly, Stickman slid down the hill. He landed with a bump on his head. Stickman stood up and looked up above. He was home at the family tree. Stickman and his family were happy. I'm going to write my story today. I'm going to talk and show you as I write. And then your activity today is going to write your new ending. Okay. Chair out of the way. Okay, here we go. Move the board so that you can see what I'm writing really well. Okay, so my writing starts with, suddenly Stickman fell out of the sleigh. Writing my very neatest handwriting, trying to remember my capital letters at the start of my sentences. Suddenly, and Stickman has capital letters too, because it's his name. Suddenly, Stickman fell. Actually, I wonder if I can think of a better word than fell. What's another word for falling? Toppled. Suddenly, Stickman toppled out of the sleigh. And at the end of my sentence, before I move on with my arrow, I need to put a full stop. Okay? So suddenly, Stickman toppled out of the sleigh. He fell down and down through the night sky. He fell. He fell down and down. Down and down is good storytelling language to use. Through the night sky. It's always good to add a little bit of extra detail. You could just put he fell down. But he fell down and down through the night sky is more like being a real story writer. Don't forget the full stop at the end. He landed on top of a snowy hill. He landed, he landed gently on top. He landed gently because the hill was so snowy and soft on top of a snowy hill. See, my sentence, I've remembered my capital letter to start and my full stop to finish. He landed gently on top of a snowy hill. Now I can move on to my next bit because I've done my full stop. He slid down the hill. I could use another adverb. I used gently here. How do I want him to slide? Do I want him to go quickly? Or do I want him to go slowly? Slowly, I think. Slowly, he slid down the hill. Notice that I'm looking at the words that I've got on my plan. I've used all of these so far. Suddenly, sleigh. I used fell, but then I changed it to toppled. Top and snowy hill and slid and down, and using all those words. Bump. Oh yes, he landed with a bump to his head. He landed with a bump to his head. And then Stickman stood up and looked up above. Stickman stood up and looked up above. To move the camera a little bit so that we can see all the writing. He was home at the family tree. He was home at the family tree. Stickman was happy. Is my final sentence. So here's my story map that I did yesterday that I've used to help me do my writing today. And here's my story ending. I'm going to read it to you one more time. Suddenly, Stickman toppled out of the sleigh. He fell down and down through the night sky. He landed gently on the top of a snowy hill. Slowly, he slid down the hill. He landed with a bump to his head. Stickman looked up and saw... Stickman stood up and looked up above. He was home at the family tree. Stickman was happy. So, I planned and wrote my new ending to my story. And today's activity for you is to look at the story map that you drew yesterday and write me some sentences for each picture that is on your story map so that we can read your new ending to your story. Before you start to write, it's a good idea to look at your pictures, say your sentences out loud, say your sentences again with some actions. Really practice what you want to say and get it in your head before you start to write. That always helps you. And then write some sentences. Try to remember your capital letters and your full stops. Maybe you can be like me and change one of your words for a better word. I changed fell to toppled. Maybe you could use some adverbs. Do some adjectives too, but maybe you could use some adverbs like gently, slowly, suddenly. Words that describe how things happened. Remember, the adverbs that we often use end with an ly. I look forward to reading some of your work later. So take a picture of your writing and post your new ending on your Class Dojo portfolio. See you tomorrow.